I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I?
Welcome back, class, and welcome to Chapter 1. Now, the song you heard this time at the introduction was from the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, sung by Judy Garland. Now, the reason we use this song as an example is because it seems to be universally known and we can understand its construction. The construction of this song is what they call AABA form. Now, form is something we're going to discuss all through this book. We're going to see it evolve from the 1950s all the way up to today. Now, the common forms during this up to rock and roll era, we're going to see are AABA, simple verse, and blues form, 12-bar blues. Now, this AABA, when you listen back to the song, and remember, use the guide sheets that we have in the book, digital and online, that discuss all the breakdowns of these individual songs that we are going to be discussing. In this one in particular, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, somewhere over the, you hear it, and then it goes back to that lyric and repeats, and then da 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 da, da, that's the bridge, and then it brings you right back to the A again, da dee 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 dee. Right, so that's our AABA. Now this goes back already decades before that to Tin Pan Alley. And remember, for quite a long time, the way to make money in music was physical publishing, the writing of music and the purchase of the sheet music, because recorded music was still in a slow growth. Now, understanding that industry and what happened. Now, at the beginning of the 20th century, recorded music is new. And these record companies like the Victor Talking Machine Company were really selling some good amounts of records. And then after World War I, a new invention broke through. And that's the invention and distribution of radio and radio programming. Most of the television stations that we knew today that are popular, they got their start in radio. Like NBC, the National Broadcasting Company. They were in radio. Companies like RCA, right? So they were the Radio Company of America. So this idea of having radio now changed the format for recording. Recording saw its sales drop immensely because for popular music and wherever popular songs, why would you go buy the record when you could listen to them on the radio for free? So now the record companies had to find a way to supplement and find a new source of recording. Well, some other people had already been using this recording technology. Remember I mentioned before John and Alan Lomax, right? The father and a son that had worked for the National Archives in Washington, D.C. at the Library of Congress, doing field recordings, recording field hollers, gospel songs, was known as hillbilly music, which would become country music, right? And blues artists. So now someone comes along, a guy named Ralph Peer, and he gets along with the OK Recording Company, and he decides to go out and find these people and record them, because he realizes that most of them don't have radios or can't afford them, but they would love to hear their own music. So this helps create a whole new industry for recording company. Radio shifts over into this popular music format. Most people are listening to popular music at the time on there. This is through the 1920s mostly, remember. right? So now recording is bringing hillbilly, country music, right? And these early blues artists, everything from Creole French songs down in Louisiana, to a market. Now, what that does, it actually creates a new popular market for things like rural blues, right? And country blues for guys like Blind Lemon Jefferson, which you'll see and hear through the book, right? And country artists. So, like Fiddlin' John Carson. So these guys create a whole new market for these record companies. Now, going all through the 1920s, remember the other things you need to pay attention to, what life was like. So what was going on during this time period? It's a big party, right? F. Scott Fitzgerald's, this is the Jazz Age, right? The Great Gatsby. So that type of popular jazz dance music is what's happening, what people are dancing to. And they're doing it in these speakeasies and party halls. Now also remember, in 1919, going into action in 1920, right, is the 18th Amendment, Prohibition, the Volstead Act. So they're doing this, they're all illegal liquor. So this illegal liquor, as you know, is also creating a whole unique and new underworld, which we'll talk again about later, and affects us for decades. But music itself grows up in this period, right? There's lots of money. Everyone seems to have money, right until 1929, right? Black Tuesday. And that's the stock market crash. So the great crash in 29 brings us into a whole new era known as the Great Depression. And some other things that most people usually sometimes forget is there's also during the Great Depression a thing out in the West and South and West called the Great Dust Bowl. So make sure you're paying attention to that as well. So this era and post-World War II era is going to bring us into a whole unique rebuild of America. And along with that is we're going to have our own soundtrack. Okay? So I'll see you next chapter.